Hello, Dr. Dyke, Drummond here with an important announcement. The Physicians on Purpose podcast, just shy of our 100th episode, is now going to be the Stop Physician Burnout podcast. And we're going to focus exclusively on physician leadership skills from my 40,000 doctor coaching and training practice, because it's time that we learn the skills to take back the practice of medicine and lead the charge to physician well-being. In this episode, I'm going to tell you why we made the switch, why it's so important now, and I'm going to show you the fundamental core reason why physicians naturally make such lousy leaders. It's number one of physician leadership's dirty little secrets. Check it out. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Stop Physician Burnout Podcast, a physician leadership podcast where you will learn the skills so that we can join together and lead the charge to physician well-being. Skills to earn the respect of your colleagues in the front line, skills to exercise true influence in the C-suite, and take back your job, your practice, your career, and your life. All of these tools have been proven effective in my 40,000 doctor physician coaching and training practice. And if I know one thing, I know you're super busy. So let's get started. Hello again, Dr. Dyke, Drummond here at the home of thehappymd.com in beautiful Seattle, Washington, with the first of our new brand, Stop Physician Burnout Podcast. For almost 100 episodes now in 3 years, it's been Physicians on Purpose, and we've had a wide-ranging set of topics. But it's clear to me that the physician burnout epidemic, physician burnout rates have been above 50% for almost a decade now. That epidemic has one core cause, and that's an absence of high-quality leadership. Because if you ask yourself, where did the systems of care come from? Where do the cultures that we live in come from? They are born by and supported by and managed by and created by the leadership. So for the last 6 years, in addition to coaching burned out doctors, I've also led a training called the Quadruple Aim Physician Leadership Retreat. And we have 289 graduates in 4 continents right now doing some great work to help lead the physician wellness movement. And what I want to do here in the final stages of my career, I've got plenty to give back, and a big legacy I want to build is I want to share with you in this podcast, which is a physician leadership podcast from this point forward. I want to share with you the leadership skills we've discovered in my 40,000 doctor coaching and training practice. These leadership skills that can help us work together to redress the imbalance in the core polarity of healthcare. On one side, you've got profit. On another side, you've got the practice of medicine. On one side, you've got money. On the other side, you've got meaning. On one side, you got suits. On the other side, you got scrubs. And somehow, doctors don't seem to be able to hold their side up when they're in a leadership context with business leaders. Money seems to be making all of the decisions these days, when in fact, if we had the leadership skill set to be respected by our colleagues in the front line, rather than somebody thinks that you've gone over to the dark side, or to have some true influence in the C-suite, because literally, if you break your doctors, your business falls apart. It doesn't make sense to have burned out doctors because the margin is dependent upon the mission, and the mission is dependent upon the margin. I'm going to quote Rodney King here, can't we all just get along? So I want to share some of the skills, simple, practical tools that will allow you to be the best leader in the room, pretty much everywhere you go. But let's look right now at why we're at such a disadvantage typically. And let me ask you this. If you're a doctor, this is an important question to actually acknowledge. When you were in medical school residency, did you ever have a leadership class? Like you learned leadership skills, like you had a leadership development training in medical school residency? Did you? You know the answer is no, right? How did you learn how to lead? And typically it's in a clinical setting. How were you taught how to lead? I'll tell you how I was taught to lead. I went to Mayo Medical School. There's only 40 of us on the Rochester campus, 5,000 residents, 40 medical students in each year. And you learn how to be a doctor in your 4th year medical school and your residency. So I was a 4th year medical student, and we were on the cardiology rotation. I was given a patient to present. There's the attending and the chief resident and 3 other residents and the intern and me. And what you do is you work the patient up, and you present them at the foot of the bed. And the less questions that they ask, the better job you did. So I worked with my patient, I presented them, and nobody asked any questions. They just all filed out of the room. And at the end, it was me and the patient and the intern. And the intern turned to me and said, "Aren't you going to write orders?" And I said, "What?" He said, "The orders." I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." "Write the orders," he said. I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." But I looked over at the nurses' station, and there was an enormous Catholic nurse with her arms crossed, just glaring at me with the hat and everything. You know, I'm talking about St. Mary's Hospital in Rochester, Minnesota. And the intern was really pretty cool because he didn't continue to brutalize me. He said, "Come here." And he walked me behind the counter, and there was that little file cabinet with all the little drawers in it, right? And inside was a duplicate sheet of paper. It was yellow with lines on it. What did it say across the top of the sheet of paper? Yeah, you know what it said. 2 words: doctor's orders. And he showed me how to write a set of admitting orders for my patient. Now just think about this. That is a leadership style. It's called top-down command and control. As a matter of fact, all of the pressure to make all of the decisions and to get it right every time is on the doctor, the leader, the one at the apex. And we're only at the apex of the pyramid here because of our rank. There's no way in the world I knew as much as that nurse behind the counter. But she couldn't do anything. She was frozen until I wrote the orders that gave her the permission to take action with the patient. So if all of the responsibility, if the only intellect that's applied to the problem comes from the leader, who is the least qualified person on the team, we're just going to run into obstacles left, right, and center. And so one of the things that you have to do if you're going to be a good leader, a physician who's a good leader, is you have to take your doctor hat off and you have to change your skill set to get rid of that command and control. I give orders, you do what I say, you don't do anything before I say it, and you don't do anything more. And I sit at my desk and try to figure out what to tell the team because I'm the only one that can possibly come up with the answer. It makes it so difficult. And most of the time, if you're not in a clinical setting, if you're not running a code, if you're in a C-suite or something like that, you're probably the least qualified person in the room to make a decision. But you do have a very, very important opinion because you can be the guardian of this action we're about to take in the C-suite. What effect will that have on the health and well-being of our people? And it's up to us to ask that question before bad cultural decisions are made for financial reasons. It's not a battle. It's helping people reach a new understanding of you can't brutalize your people and expect them to be productive as workers. No margin, no mission. No mission, no margin. That's it for today. I'll see you on the next episode of the podcast, and we're just going to give you a tool or two at a time to use in your own practice, in your own world. And again, these are leadership tools that are universal. You can use them to take back your job, your practice, your career, and your life. Because at least in part, burnout is also an issue of leadership. We are not holding a proactive vision of what we really want in our career, and we tend to tolerate what we get because we were trained to do so as residents. So Dyke Drummond here in Seattle, Washington at the home of thehappymd.com. I'll see you on the next episode of remember the new name, it's pretty easy. You can see you on the next episode of the Stop Physician Burnout Podcast. Keep breathing, have a great rest of your week.